Hey everybody, good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend. This is Shannon Graham-Cornell, and today I'm coming to you live from my driveway and specifically my garage. I wanted to talk a little bit about garage, not specifically garage, but storage spaces in your home. And those typically for us are either garages or they might be basement storage, basement storage rooms. So I wanted to talk about that today. So I'm going to take you on a little tour of the garage that we have and how we have it set up. But I also want to talk a little bit about things that you should consider when you are looking at your storage spaces. And then when I'm done, we are going, my husband and I are going to go celebrate St. Patrick's Day at the Guinness Brewery, which is about 10 minutes from our home. Because when you live 10 minutes from a Guinness Brewery, which is the only brewery, by the way, in the United States, it's located in Halethorpe, Maryland. So when you live only 10 minutes away from the only Guinness Brewery in the United States, where else would you go on St. Patrick's Day weekend? So we're going to go do that. We're going to take our lift and we're going to get there safely and get home safely. But before we get to do that, I want to show you the garage. So I'm going to flip the camera around and give you a little bit of a tour. Okay, so this is what the garage looks like. So you can see over here, this is the right side of the garage, and we've got this is where we store our garbage cans. We've also got shelving set up over here. Some additional shelving at the back end of the garage. Also a little tool corner. And then this is where we have all of our tools hanging on the wall. And then on the left side of the garage, we've got a shelf that's high enough that it clears my car. My car parks on this side of the garage. And we store up there things that we don't need to get access to very easily, just because it's usually my car is in the way. But we backed our cars out today for the tour. But I want to, first of all, one important safety tip that I want to share before I go much further. When you move in to a new place and you have nothing on the walls and you have nothing stored in the garage, get your garage painted if that's something that you need to do. We chose not to paint the garage, thinking that we would do it. We didn't want to pay the extra money to have the builder paint the garage. Should have done that, because guess what? This garage is never going to get painted. So anyway, back to the tour. So I'm actually going to start on this side here because I want to point out some things to keep an eye out for in your space. So one of the things I want to show you, see how in this garage we've got a bit of a bump out for the garage itself isn't even. The garage door is offset. So you can see over here we've got not much of a extra space on this side, but over here we've got a nice, I'd say 3 or 4 foot bump out. This is a perfect place if you've got this this configuration to put your shelving, and also to store things that you can't put on the wall, like a set of garage or garbage cans. So if you've got a bump out like this, that's a perfect place to take advantage of shelving. I will tell you that one of the things that I have said, you've heard me say it when we've talked about products, is that I recommend that you do not buy any products until you are done organizing. Your storage spaces, either your garages or your storage rooms, are the one exception. Figure out, if you are going to be using it primarily for storage, go ahead and buy those shelves now. Because it'll give you places to temporarily set things as you are sorting, putting things in bins, all that. But you know you're going to want shelving. I would recommend getting shelving that is adjustable so that you can set the individual shelf heights the way you want them. So you're not committed to only a certain shelf height. But I would say that for storage projects, like in a garage or in a storage room in a basement, go ahead and buy that shelving. You know that you're going to need it. Figure out which walls you want to put shelving on, and then you can go ahead and get that when you first get started. Don't buy any containers yet. I wouldn't buy bins or anything like that. Although you might start looking to see what bins, like what the largest bin might be that would appropriately fit on your shelf. But I would wait to actually purchase any of those until you see what you're going to be storing in those bins. But get your shelving. So And this is actually what we did here. So you can see, I don't think this particular brand of shelving is made anymore, but they have at Home Depot and Lowe's and pretty much everywhere that sells shelving, they have this kind of stuff. So you can see here that these clips are what hold the shelf in place. So I can move this shelf up and down, to accommodate whatever heights I need here. I can also, if I wanted to, I could buy this individual shelf separately and add it to this. So right now, this is a what? This is a 1, 2, 3, 4 shelf unit. I could actually buy a 5th shelf if I wanted to, and be able to then compress my shelf heights and get another row of shelving on here. So one thing I also want to point out, when you do have your shelving in place and you are starting to put your items on the shelves, organize it by category as much as possible. Now, sometimes you have to, sometimes the reality of the space or the shelf heights, especially if you didn't get something that's adjustable, the reality of it may make it so that you can't always put, your bins of Christmas together along with your bins of household stuff and your bins of, I'm looking to see what we have. We've got memorabilia that we're okay with storing out here. Hey, Frank, good morning. But if possible, do that. Organize it like with like. So I'll show you here. This section of this shelving is all Christmas. So with the exception of that one tub right there, which is yearbooks, the rest of this is all Christmas. So when the Christmas season comes along, this whole shelf gets emptied. And the nice part is the rest of the stuff over here, which has nothing to do with Christmas, stays completely untouched. We don't have to deal with it at all. So this way, we know where all of our Christmas things are. You can see that each thing is labeled. And notice I did not go in for fancy labels. This is painter's tape and a Sharpie marker. I love this because it is flexible. So if next year I do some decluttering of our Christmas stuff, then I don't have to worry about, I'm not storing Lennox hooks, lights, and extension cord in here anymore. I'm storing something else. Tear the label off. It didn't cost me anything to make it. Not fancy. And, I can go ahead and reuse that bin for something else. Again, as I've said before, reusing stuff I'm a big fan of. So I don't like to make a commitment to having something be used for a particular reason forever. Another thing, you might be tempted, and we kind of started to do this, although I don't think it was really intentional. You might be tempted, you probably noticed I've got green bins in theory for Christmas and then purple bins for the rest of our stuff. One downside of doing that, it's kind of cute. Well, first of all, not all of our Christmas stuff is in green bins, and that bothers me just a little bit. But one of the issues that you may run into, and again, this stays with the idea of flexibility, staying flexible, is you may not be able to get those same colored bins next year when you need more because your Christmas stuff has expanded. So you may end up with, you've kind of boxed yourself into, I'm going to get green bins for Christmas and I'm going to get, purple bins for my household stuff. I would say if I were to do this over again, I would do this differently. But I'd say get one color of bin, probably clear, something that you can maybe even see into, which might be also helpful for being able to spot what's in there if you don't have really complete labels. And if you want to do different colors of things, maybe print out a different color of label on your printer and make it a different color. Green lettering is for Christmas or holidays, and the red lettering is for household stuff or whatever. Something, again, that you're not committing yourself to a particular color scheme. So that's a couple things I would definitely recommend. Start with shelving. Go ahead and do that. You can make that purchase. Make sure it's flexible. Make sure it's adjustable. You'll get your best bang for the buck that way. And then when you put things on the shelf, keep it with light categories. So we've got Christmas on the one side. Over here, we have, this is our household stuff. We've got, garage things here and tools. We've got paint supplies, emergency supplies here, digital and memorabilia down below. So we've got, kind of trying to keep things together. So again, when you're going to find something, you are only having to look in one place rather than all over your garage. So that's on this side. So I'm going to show you the other side because there's another really good thing about garages in particular, but also storage rooms. You are wanting to try to get the most storage space out of an environment as you possibly can. And one of the best ways to do that is to go vertical. I mean, it's one of the benefits of having, as much shelving as possible, but certainly, and particularly in garages where you're trying to save the big footprint of your garage for parking your cars. So you can't use the floor space that's in the middle, of your garage. So in that case, what you want to do is you want to go vertical as much as possible. So I'm going to show you what we did over here with our tools. Notice we have no tools except for the propane tank sitting over there in the corner. We have nothing on the floor. It is all hanging up on the wall. And this system, I love this system. And pretty much, like I said, every, Home Depot and Lowe's, they all have their own. But this is Cobalt, is the system. And basically what we did was you buy the rails and you install the rails. So if you're handy, you can install them yourself or get a handyman to install them for you if you're not handy. But install these. And then you buy these clips. Let's see. Actually, here, I'll show you this one. So here's this clip. So they have all different kinds of clips. They've got, S-hook clips like this. They've got just, regular hooks that aren't quite as specialized. But you basically go ahead and install the shelving or install the rails. And then once you have the rails installed, then you can figure out what it is you're hanging on the rails, and you can get the appropriate hooks. And what we did, and when we did this ourselves, and I thought this was a brilliant idea, could not take credit for it. This was my husband's idea. I give him full credit. But what we did was we went and we bought one of every type of hook or connector or doodad that they had I think we got ours from Lowe's. So, but I'm not sure about that. But we went and bought one of every kind that we had, or that they had. And then we came home and we figured out what's the best hook for hanging a ladder, what's the best hook for hanging the push broom, what's the best hook for hanging the snow shovels. And then went back and got, returned the ones we didn't need and then got the appropriate number of the things we did. That would just reduced a lot of stress in terms of, standing in the aisle at the store trying to figure out how many hooks you need, because you don't really know until you start hanging things up and you're like, I don't really like that, or that's too complicated to get, to get the broom out of or whatever. Excuse me, lost my earpiece. There we go. So I recommend that, but certainly, we laid out every item that we were going to put on this wall and just kind of did a dry fit. Is it going to all fit here? We knew, I'll show you the wall again. We knew that we needed, a second space for game stuff, and that could be much shorter. So we got, a basket that hangs on there and a couple more of those S-hook looking things for the rackets. That worked out really perfectly. And then, all of our tools up here. We even have the snowblower hanging up. Now, one thing we don't have to contend with because we live in a townhouse, and our landscaping is, or at least our yard that's about, 9 square feet is taken care of by the homeowners association. So we don't have to deal with a lawnmower. So a lawnmower is something that we don't have to try to accommodate. But if we did, I would be storing it over in that bump out space I was showing you. So that would be on this side over here. So right now we were able to fill that with a little tool chest on wheels that my husband can use. He can pull out if he needs to do any tool stuff. But we would keep it in this space because this is the space that has the again the most depth to be able to store something like a lawnmower. You don't want to try to put a lawnmower on a wall, especially if it's a gas lawnmower. You can probably do it with electrical, but I wouldn't recommend putting a gas lawnmower on a wall. That'll be awfully messy. So that is the tour of the garage that I wanted to show you. So mostly, the key takeaways here: take advantage of any bump out space that you may have in your garage. If you've got that, consider yourself fortunate, because that's a nice thing to have. And use that for storing those things that can't go up on the wall. And use it for shelving. So maximize as much shelving as you can. And that, as I said, is one product I say go ahead and get before you need to start organizing. You don't have to, by the way. If you want to wait and get shelving later, that's perfectly fine. But I'm just saying that's one thing that you can do, get ahead of time. And it's nice, especially when you've pulled, you're pulling everything out. It's nice to have a place to be able to even temporarily set it while you're doing the sorting of all of the other things that you own. This is a perfect time of year to do a garage storage project. I would also say, just because it's nice out right now and it's not too hot, there's, at least for today, there's not snow on the ground. I would also encourage you to consider, when you're thinking about if you have a garage and you have a storage room, I would encourage you to consider both of those spaces at the same time. Because there are decisions that you might make about things that you are currently keeping in your garage, particularly if you don't have a nice bump out space, and so you've got to be a little more selective of what you keep in the garage. But think about those two spaces holistically. So things that you might be able to store in a storage room in the basement versus where you might want to put it in the garage. So anyway, so those are a couple of things. Put everything on the wall you can. Take advantage of any extra bump out space and go ahead and buy shelving and consider your storage room in addition to your basement. In addition to your garage. So that's it for today. Happy St. Patrick's Day weekend, everybody. I will see you tomorrow for another installment of this. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.